Hi. It's good to be here. Oh my God. I've been in Calgary 3 times in the last 6 months. And I don't think I'd ever been to Calgary before in my life. So it's been a lot of Calgary. It just keeps happening. But I like it. I like the shopping here. And it's pretty cool. What's that? There's this store. That's the one. Simon's, Anwar, you know. Anyways, I'm going to be hitting that place up because it's so cool. Cool, I'm just going to jump in here. I was asked to talk about deconstruction. And I love prattling on about deconstruction. I think there's a lot to talk about. I'm not going to go through all the technicalities of deconstruction. I have a couple courses on TheosU on deconstruction, and then David Campbell, who is an incredible teacher, he teaches on deconstruction as well. But I want to kind of come at it from a different angle today, and I'm going to share maybe some personal things. I'm not gonna name names, but I'm gonna say some things that I've been a part of. And I'm not trying to disrespect or be dishonorable. I'm just trying to tell you where I'm coming from, if that makes sense. Okay, so how you learn something matters. It sets the pace for your future experiences in that thing. I learned golf all wrong. So I grew up playing hockey and baseball, as a good Ontario boy does. So, right? It's baseball during the summer and hockey during the winter. And somebody said, come on, it's awesome. And nobody ever taught me about swing path. Because like in hockey, you just sort of, you slap the ball or puck. Wow, it's been a while. I live in Palm Springs now. And then in baseball, right, you sort of swing at it. And a baseball swing is a baseball swing. It's just so different than a golf swing. And so when I started golfing, I just baseball swung because I'm just like, I just watched and I'm just watching. They just swing it. It seems like it's the same motion, isn't it? But sadly, it is not the same motion. And so I played for years, and by years I mean most of my life, in frustration, never really enjoying the game because every time I'd stand on the tee box and I'd address the ball, I'd look like a total idiot. And all my friends are hitting these 250-yard plus bombs, and I get up there every time, and I baseball swing at the ball, and it's like t-ball, right? The ball's not moving. It's just there, but I can't figure this out. You know what I mean? And I'm hitting, and it would always slice. I'm coming across the ball, and the ball just slices, and I'd get maybe 215 yards if I'm lucky, because it would boomerang out, and then and I just look like an idiot. And most of the times, I'd go, into the forest or hit somebody's house. So for years, people keep on giving me advice, and if you've ever golfed before, it's a humbling game, which is, I think, what's really probably one of the most positive things about it is it forces men to have to receive critique from men. I think that men who golf are better human beings pound for pound. Because you're used to it's an onslaught of feedback, right? You go home, you get it from your wife. You go to the golf course, you get it from your guys, right? There's no safe spaces on a golf course. And so I have all these guys telling me, do this, change this. You're holding it this, address it this way, set your feet up this way, and nothing worked because how I learned golf was baseball, right? And these guys just somehow they just couldn't communicate to me, what I was doing wrong. 2 years ago, I am in Palm Springs, and I'm golfing with the great Judah Smith. And one of the things that I love about Judah is he's such a good teacher. The reason why he communicates so well is because he understands what he's communicating. And he bite-sizes things. And so he just communicated. So he's, Nate, think of doing a U, okay? When you wind up, do a U, and then you bring through, and it's like a U swing. And I'm, U swing. U swing. He's like, most of the guys on the tour do this U swing. So you're going to wind up, and then you're going to shallow out the club, and you're going to bring it in. So instead of coming across the ball and slicing, you're going to come in, and you're going to swing path U. I'm like, okay, U. It's a U. I can U. And I'm not kidding you. So we're playing at the JW Marriott in Palm Desert. And I get up. Judah tells me U, address the ball, do a U, and I punish this ball 275 yards straight down the fairway. And I'm like, it's a U. It's a U. It's a U. It's just changed my entire game. But I was limping through golf, because I wanted to golf because I wanted to be with the boys, to be quite honest with you. That's the only reason why. And I was suffering, but I felt so emasculated every time I'd be on a tee box because these guys are bombing it, right? And I'm like this dork who has no power when all I needed to do, I just needed a teacher to give me the U, and then the joy came from it. And now I'm the guy who occasionally outdrives. I'm like, somebody's further. I'm that guy getting to say that now. God bless you, Judah. How you learn something matters. I was talking to a pastor of a large church in Orange County recently. I spoke at their church, and he told me about a young lady that had caused a bunch of problems at their church. And when they began to address some issues pastorally with her, she threw their entire belief system kind of back in their face. Like, I don't believe any of this. I don't believe that the Bible speaks into this issue. It was like obviously the Bible speaks into this issue type thing. She told the pastor that she'd gotten saved at Hillsong, New York City, attended church there, and then moved to Orange County. Got quiet in here all of a sudden. When I was in New York, so I was at Hillsong New York City for 8 years. I was there the first year. I lived with Joel Houston on the corner of Lafayette and Grand. And I remember our first services, and I led worship there for 4 years as a worship leader. And then I came on staff, and I started to teach evening college on Monday nights. And I did that for 4 years. So I was there for a total of 8 years. And then I left about 3.5 years ago. It was the same year that Joel left. Joel told me he was leaving. I told him I was leaving because I moved with him and I left with him. And anyways, without going into the gross details, I was becoming frustrated because I felt like nobody cared. The evening college, which is what I was passionate about, and evening college was just a discipleship tool. We'd get about 250, 300 kids into a Monday night, and I'd teach the Bible. I'd teach Old Testament survey, New Testament survey, Hebrews, Romans, the life of Christ, just abbreviated Bible college courses. This is what eventually became Theos U. When I was in New York, I wrote 14 of these courses. And I started to get really passionate because we had like 200,000 people put up their hands on a Sunday morning. Probably the greatest charismatic evangelical church, like being evangelistic, maybe in 100 years, in terms of just pure, like, people responding to the gospel. I mean, like, if that was your cousin or somebody that you've been praying for and they put their hand up, you'd be excited about that. right? So that part of me, man, so Theos U didn't come from me being some angry reformed person who likes to eviscerate people online. Do you know what I mean? Like I have a blog and I just hang out in academia and I go to a church and there's 12 of us there. I care about churches that grow. Like the Bible talks about numbers. You know, you ever don't talk about numbers at a church conference. Why not? The Bible talks about them. 3,000 were added to the church that day. Do you know what I mean? There's two parts to that, right? One is like being insecure and you're talking about your numbers. And then the other is, man, we're celebrating because God just added 3,000 people to our church. Numbers matter because people matter to God, right? God added to the church daily those that were being saved. So a healthy church is a growing church. I care about people. I want people to go to heaven, not hell. Right? But how you learn something matters. And I think that my soteriology has changed a little bit. I think that I'm less inclined to believe that if you responded to a sermon on a Sunday morning, that you're just a Christian. I'm less likely to believe that salvation is a line that you cross over and it's more of a direction that you're headed in. I was at a church. I watched as thousands of people would respond to the gospel. When I was in New York, there was two girls that got saved at our church. I became friends with them. I knew them because they served at our team. Our assimilation program worked. Got them in. They're serving. They're part of a connect group. Amen. Hallelujah. They did the 4 weeks. I like assimilation. It's awesome. Got to have something, right? You can't clean a fish until you catch it. People get caught in the net. That's awesome. They expressed interest in Bible college. They were super passionate. They're serving on team. One of them served in our worship team. They knew all the songs. You know, they were there every Sunday, all day, right? I encouraged them, yeah, absolutely pursue God. Go to Hillsong College. They went to Hillsong College. Both of them in the last year have come back to New York. Neither of them are serving God. I only sent 2 people to Bible college from New York. Somehow they found like a deconstruction group in Sydney. This isn't the usual case. I think that Hillsong College is a great college. And I think that Hillsong Church is a good church. Great church, even. I think that Phil Dooley is amazing. I think that church is going to be awesome. It'll be fine. Okay, so I'm not bashing Hillsong. I'm not. I was just at Hillsong Copenhagen. Church is doing amazing. But what I'm saying is that like how somebody gets saved matters. And I watched as people put their hands up and then and they're part of our church and they're part of our program, they're assimilated and they're serving and they're in a connect group. But then you fast forward and there's problems. As in they're not a Christian anymore. How does that happen? I do wonder, a part of me does wonder if they were ever a Christian. I guess that's the Calvinist side of me. He only comes out on Tuesdays. Rest of the time, I'm Wesleyan Arminian. Seeker taught us that you can't disciple a chair. Right? So you need people in your church. I grew up at a charismatic church where, you know, flags. Do you know what I'm saying? Conga lines. You know, all the songs sounded Jewish. We used to sing a song like, we march on the city, they rush on the walls. Great is the army that carries out his word. It's about like Jerusalem being destroyed. But it was anointed. Like I didn't grow up in a sanitized church. I grew up in an open mic prophecy, like, you know what I mean? Our pre-service prayer, our worship set, 2 songs. Right? Then pastor preaches for easily hour 20 minutes. And then altar call another hour. Potluck. And by the time potluck's wrapping up, pre-service prayer for Sunday night church is starting. We were in church all day. That's the legacy of the Lazelle family. If you know who they are, God bless them. So that's what I grew up in. And then the seeker movement and guys like Paul Scanlon and other such, they taught us, hey, like there's some speed bumps in our church. There's some weird things that we do. We already believe some weird stuff. So why not sort of just like, don't be weird? And I like that. I do like that. I think that it's good to kind of just go, do we need the flags? You know what I mean? Do we need 7-foot streamers? Do we need a tambourine lady? Part of me is starting to say, you know what, we do need her. We do need her. If that keeps judgmental hipsters out of your church, bring back tambourine lady. Okay, but we got rid of tambourine lady. We got rid of, oh, my people, prophecy lady. Right, same prophecy every single time. Oh, my people. Yes. Heard it last Sunday. The Spirit's not moving if she doesn't say, oh, my people. And people started coming to our churches. So seeker movement taught us that you can't disciple a chair. Assimilation has taught us that people need to serve and connect in order to stay. I totally agree. I do believe that spiritual maturity happens in the context of relationship. In fact, I don't think it happens outside of the context of relationship. You need somebody to tell you that you suck. Because you don't see you when you read Scripture. You see other people. Right? Right? Oh, yeah, I was reading the book of Proverbs. Lord's really speaking to me about you. A fool utters all his mouth. It's for you. So, amen. Assimilation taught us that people need to serve and connect in order to stay. Absolutely. But deconstruction is teaching us that none of that matters if there's no root. So that's great. Oh yeah, you're in our church, great. We have a warm body, praise God. Oh, and you're connected and you're going to a small group, that's fantastic. And you've done the 4 weeks, that's great. But if you're not a disciple, right? So what if all 3 of those work together? Right? I'm not saying don't remove the speed bumps, do that. I'm not saying don't do 4 weeks and have connect groups and get people serving. Do that. But let's not forget to make people a Christian. I've felt like for the last 4 years I begun to kind of do ministry, that I'm a Bible smuggler at most churches. I am smuggling Christian thought into Sunday mornings. And my generation, they seem to think that Jesus is their life coach and not their Lord. And the reason is maybe because our sermons have become aimed at the lowest common denominator. I'll talk about that more in a second. Once again, don't get me wrong. I'm not the discipleship guy who is like banging that drum and going, well, I'm academic. You're wrong about dispensationalism. You have the eschaton totally wrong. Yes, at times I do beat that drum. But the genesis of Theos U was Hillsong, New York City. I care about people becoming a Christian and staying a Christian. It's lasting fruit. That's what Jesus seems to care about. And I'm haunted by the parable of the sower. We're gonna read it in a second here. But it honestly, it's haunted me the last 4 years. Let's read it. Matthew 13. Matthew 13, do we have it? Do we expecto patronum? Okay, they're not giving us a lot of runway here. It's gonna be like that, isn't it? I'm gonna be continue. Next one. Next one. That's better. It was messing with our graphics. The Word of God was messing with our graphics. Hey, come on. It's funny. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand, I'm going to stand up for this one. This is Jesus talking. It's important. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown, just pause for 1 second. I don't know if you can see it, but I sort of have like the remains of a henna tattoo right here and right here. I don't know if you can see it. I went to Las Vegas. There it is. There it is. The dean of our college, it was his birthday on Thursday, last Thursday, and so we wanted to do something special. We live a 4-hour drive from Las Vegas. And so I'm like, guys, what are we doing? Like, are we gonna go to Disneyland or Vegas? And the boys were like, Vegas. So we go to Vegas, and we stayed at the Venetian for one night. We went and saw a magic show. It was awesome. And so we're walking back through the Venetian, and there's all these, it's like a mall, right? And there's all these stores, and they had henna tattoos. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I need to get this done. I need to put this on my face. And then I'm gonna go home, but I'm gonna tell my wife we got tattoos in Vegas. And then I'm not gonna tell her where, and then I'm just gonna show up and just see what happens. This looked so real on Friday. It's her initials, and then like a rose. And so I text her and I'm like, babe, we got tattoos in Vegas. I got your initials and a rose. She's like, oh my God, that's so cute. I'm like, it is so cute. She's like, where? I'm like, I need to surprise you. So anyways, so Friday when we got home, I walked into the house and she lost her mind. It was amazing. And I let it kind of go for about 5 minutes, and then finally she's like, and I'm like, babe, it's henna. She's like, it was amazing. Okay, side note. I'm sorry. I had to explain. Okay, back to Jesus here. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches. Man, that's powerful. Choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields. In one case, 100-fold, in another 60, in another 30. I wish we had time to exegete this because it's so, there's so much in here. But I want to just make some 40,000 foot level acknowledgments of what Jesus is saying here, soteriologically, but more of like a pastoral theology. Like, what is our responsibility as leaders and pastors? So rather than putting this on them, let's put it on us in light of what Jesus is saying. So number one, and we'll go through these three problems and then the success story. So, and then we'll deal with them. Okay, so problem number one is they don't understand the word. Just notice that everything is about the word here. Right? Number one, they don't understand the word. Number two, the person receives the word with joy, but they have no root. Problem number three, there's a love of the world, right? They hear the word, but there's a love of the world that chokes out the word. And then the success story is they hear the word, they understand it, and then they're fruitful, okay? So number one, why wouldn't someone understand the word? Maybe because they weren't taught the word. Like, that's kind of just the most obvious thing. They didn't understand it. Well, typically, the reason why you don't understand something is because you've never had a really great teacher. I don't think every single pastor needs to be a great Bible teacher, but you should at least understand what you're teaching. And what I've recognized and learned is oftentimes when I read, here's the deal. I'm a good reader. I'm a good reader. I went to like a Christian school. That's all they teach you. It's reading and comprehension. That's all we got going for us. You don't learn a lot about math, science, don't know much about all that stuff. Right? But I can read. I can read good. And what I've learned is if I have to reread a paragraph 2 or 3 times, that's not on me, that's on you. I've become a bit indignant with authors. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm not the problem. You're the problem. This is alphabet soup. You hearing me? I've found that confused people are often bad teachers. The reason why you're not teaching well is because you don't know what you believe. Could it be that we don't know what we believe and it comes out at times? I don't know how God saves. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed and confused about all these verses. I don't know the threshold of these various thoughts that Jesus and Paul are talking about. I think it does manifest itself. And confused people confuse people. Another reason why somebody could be confused and didn't understand the word is because we're teaching nonsense like God is a desperate boyfriend. I mean, I think our songs, I'll be honest with you, I think our songs do a lot of problems because they're written by very confused people. And I love my friends that write those songs, but I think that they're theologically confused, and it manifests itself in the lyrics. Shots fired. I've told them this to their face, so it's, I was recently mulling over a lyric that 2 of my friends wrote, and I'm like, guys, this lyric sucks. I texted them both. This is literal nonsense, and neither of you believe this. But it sings good. Because we intimate that sin and surrender and other core beliefs don't matter. We intimate it. How do we intimate it? Songs that we sing, which is what people remember more than our sermons. I'm just going to say this, and I frustrated some friends recently about it, but that's my gift. I'm a frustrator. I have a mischievous spirit, and I don't want it cast out. I think that the belong before you believe mantra is confusing. Because you don't actually believe it. The reason why we adopted it is because we were trying to do like a PR stunt. Well, no, we're accepting. We accept, yes, we are. We accept, everybody can come to our church. But not everybody can serve at our church, get involved at our church, and not everybody is going to be saved if they continue in the belief that you hearing me. Like, it's just not true. We had this problem at Hillsong, New York. Everybody's accepted. Okay, great. So then everybody starts coming to your church. And then everybody wants to be on platform and lead worship and direct a choir. We didn't have anything in place to kind of go through people's lives and confront them. We had number one, we had no assimilation program. So when we got that, and now finally, then we had week 4. Week 4, we addressed sexual ethics and things started to change. That was helpful. But beyond that, it's just a lie. You're lying to people. I believe that the mantra came from Saint Patrick's missionary work to the Irish. He was a missionary there against his own will. Holy Spirit literally told him to go. He goes to Ireland, camps outside of the Irish tribes. They wouldn't let him in, and he's camping outside, and all the people that they didn't want, people that were elderly, people that were sick, people that were, whatever, all of the social outcasts, Patrick would take care of them. And that was sort of his whole thing. He loved to take care of people, and greatest missionary ever. He literally by the time he died, I believe the entire island had been converted to Christianity because of the love that he just showed these marginalized people. So powerful testimony. They were impacted by the love of God, by mercy. They'd never known mercy. But that's, you can be merciful, but also teach the gospel. And Patrick never compromised the gospel. And he didn't say that either. And I think that us teachers need to own that. God, am I teaching clearly? God, do I know what I believe? Do I know what our church, does our church have a statement of beliefs? These are the things that we believe. These are the things that we will die for. And it's not just a vision statement. This is who we are doctrinally. This is what we believe about the Bible. We're not negotiating that. Right? Unity at all costs is not the biblical vision. That's not the biblical vision. Doctrine, it should not be a casualty of unity. If I'm confused, my congregation is going to be confused. And that's not helping people get saved. Okay, problem number two, they have no root. Why wouldn't somebody have a root? Because we have no assimilation or discipleship process. And these have to work hand in hand. In problem number 2, they received the word with joy. It was emotional. We're really good at emotions, aren't we? As charismatic evangelicals. We know how to get you. We got a sad song for everything. Right? Here's a story. I like stories and I like sad songs. And I believe that you should be emotionally involved with God, 1,000%. Right? But one of the issues is that some things are taught. Some things are taught, some things are caught, but some things are taught. It could be that maybe discipleship has just been taught by really boring people. And so when we think of discipleship, we're just like, oh, no, you know? When I've often thought of discipleship, I just think of just horrible, boring small groups. I think of the discipleship movement, you know what I mean? Like D12, it's just like you're sitting there and you're just like, people are just talking about lordship for an hour. It's like, that gives me a panic attack. But the thing is if we don't do it, YouTube will disciple your people. Oh, no, your people are being discipled. Yeah, there's this whole deconstruction thing that's happening. Everybody's a theologian now. So the question is, who's discipling them? Is it you? Or is it Pastor Brandon Richardson? Right? He's happy to disciple your people. He'd love to. Right? Like all those deconstructing accounts. Dude, they are, I get sent, so I'm the guy that people DM all the weird stuff to. Everything. Like I get sent, like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? I can't respond to all of them. Right? But people are like, Nathan won't lie. Nathan will tell the truth. He'll shoot straight. And I will. And I do. Right? I love that stuff. I'm passionate about it. But man, like there is crazy stuff on the internet, dude. The internet it makes dumb people dumber and smart people smarter. And that's the discipleship quandary. It's like they are being discipled, but by who? So that should concern you. I think that we've dramatically underestimated the hunger of our congregations. I'll say that again. We've dramatically underestimated the hunger of our congregations. No, 3 points. You need 3, and just have a story, and just talk slowly. Okay, church, this is the Bible, right? Like, dude, are you kidding me? Young people are like 12, 13 years old, and they are way down the theological rabbit hole. These kids are smart. They learn science. And they're like 8. Kids aren't stupid anymore. Like us, when we were growing up, we didn't have YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, you got baseball cards? 8-year-olds are like into private equity. I think they're called Generation A. They're all like, I think under the age of 12. They're all geniuses. And all they watch is YouTube. Everything's DIY for them. They're just learning. They're just learning constantly. They're just like stockbrokers at the age of 7. You need to diversify. You're 6. Our congregations are hungry for the Word of God, and they want to know what they believe. And I'll just be honest, every church that I go to that's growing right now are churches that are just teaching, they're just confronting culture with the boring stuff. Why wouldn't somebody have a root? Because we think people are stupid and they don't want to learn. They go home and YouTube their theology. Look, I don't believe that Sunday sermons should be primarily for the lost. And I think that if we treat Sundays like that, we miss the entire point of the church. And I think that your ecclesiology needs some help. The church, Wayne Grudem says this, the church exists, number one, primary reason to worship God. Number one. Number two, to equip the saints. Number three, to reach the world. We need to do all three, but there's an order of priority. And when we get the priority wrong, we don't end up with a church. If you flip the script, you end up with a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. Do we want to build a church to last, or do we want to build a flash in the pan movement? Because if we don't start addressing the tidal wave of theological and political critiques of the church, that wave is going to take all of your young people. And it already is. Number three, why would someone love the world more than Jesus? Maybe because they don't see the problem. Jesus said, if you've been forgiven much, you love much. Do people know what they've been forgiven and saved from? Like, I can't stand, like, guys that just beat the sheep. I don't like that stuff. You know what I mean? You're horrible. 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 Sinner, you know? Boo, queen of trash. Little Princess Pride reference there. But we need to know that sin is an issue. Right? And like, we shouldn't like roll that one out on Good Friday. And then never hear about it again for 51 weeks. God's so obsessed with you. You are so hot to him. You are so perfect and angelic. And if you keep coming to church, you're going to manifest all your dreams. Dude, your righteousness is like dirty underwear. Your best day is disgusting. You're worse than you can imagine, but you're far more loved than you can imagine. People need to know that they've been forgiven. We have to talk about sin. We have to. And we need larger definitions of sin too. We need to confront it. If we never show people the problem, lordship is going to be a constant uphill battle. You know that lordship thing where, you know, Jesus is Lord, he's your king. If he's not, we used to say this, my dad says this all the time. If Jesus is not Lord of all, then he's not Lord at all. That's what the older generation said. And it really worked well for them. Didn't have lordship issues. I mean, obviously there's Christians that were idiots. But like, you know, Jesus is Lord. That means that your butt belongs to him. Everything? Yeah, everything. You mean like I'm just not here, like Jesus is my spiritual coach, I'm just trying to manifest? I think sometimes you're manifesting demons, to be quite honest. I think lordship is the biggest challenge right now. What does it mean that Jesus is Lord? It means that like what he has to say, there's a divorce between Jesus and his words in the church. Grace needs a sin setup. You gotta set grace up with the sin problem. And then when people see grace, it comes in and it just barges in, and God is so good and faithful and patient and kind and wonderful in spite of the problem. That causes people to worship. It changes their life. And they love so hard. But if we just preach grace, and there's no sin set up, it's like, well, of course he loves me. I'm cute. No, you're not cute. You're actually very ugly. We need to know what we've been saved from. And I think that that'll help us guard against worldliness, because then the world won't look attractive. And then, of course, how do we get people to hear and understand? Jonathan, I'm done. How do we get people to hear and understand? Teach the gospel clearly, the whole thing, the whole counsel of God. Sin, redemption, repentance, lordship, the scriptures, etc. Just the basics. It's just the basics. Like, the basics. Just, Dick Iverson used to say this. He was a pastor in Portland, Oregon. He used to say this: beautify the basics. Just beautiful. What should I preach on Sunday? Beautify the basics. How do we disciple? Beautify the basics. Just take the basic stuff in Christianity and just put some lipstick on it. If the barn needs painting, paint it. In Jesus' name. Cool.
Well, that was, I don't know, I need like one of those, like a voice recognition software so my phone can take notes while you're talking, because I can't, I'm trying to type, my phone's not computing fast, or it's my fingers. We have a couple minutes, and thank you. I hope you feel as equipped as that was. That was an equipping word. And so I don't want it to be weird, but I think it'd be great if there might be a couple of questions. And, we're all navigating different things, and even as you're unpacking that, I'm thinking about application in our context. And so I'm just going to give it a minute. And I just wonder if anybody, you've got stuff going on in your world. Do you have any questions? Maybe that pertain to some of what we talked about today. Maybe it's just like, where do you get your names? But does anybody have? Really though, let's take a minute. I'm going to give it about 30 seconds, and if somebody has a question in 30 seconds, we'll go. Oh yeah. Okay, just speak really loud so the room can hear.
Nathan, you were raised in a school that just taught you to be a good reader. But now you're a found voice in the church going forward in the 21st century. What was the catalyst to take you from that point of just in this church, it's worship so long, highly religious, whatever, to a point of being an influence and a force for righteousness in the world today?
I don't feel like that at times. I really, I'm thankful for my Christian education and the church that I grew up in. So yeah, maybe there's a case there for the ugly, the ugly charismatic, just awkward church. I think it produces some good fruit. My parents, I think, were probably the catalyst. My dad is the same person in the pulpit that he was at home. I grew up every morning to my dad speaking in tongues. I could hear him from the basement, I called him this morning. He was doing his devotions. Of course he was, so that was modeled. My parents, we always did family devotions every Monday. It was horrible. 60% of the time, it ended up into a family feud. But I was discipled. I remember being 12 years old, and my dad would get the guitar out, and we'd be, there is none like you. Come on, Nathan. Hands up, son. No one else can. Louder, son, I can't hear you. Touch like you do. Lift your hands higher. I could search for. I'd be bawling my eyes out when my dad was teaching me worship. So, I think that discipleship, just parenting is probably helpful. And then I didn't see myself doing what I'm doing. I still sort of dress for the job that I want. I want to be a musician. I don't see myself as but it didn't work out the way that I thought it would. And then I was, my time in New York, I saw a need. I just saw a need, and I'm just, and I care about the Bible. I know Jesus is real. He's real, and his words are real, and his words are life. And it burdens me what's happening to people and happening to my generation. So I don't know. It's just strange turn of events that I'm doing what I do. Yeah.
That would be a pretty accurate reflection of what we've all navigated, especially these 2 years. People that we feel like were with us, that might have been on a team, might have been key players, and now they're MIA. Now what? Like, where do you feel like what do you do now in terms of like, well, they had no fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all on? Obviously, we take responsibility, but like, how do we navigate those relationships now? And it feels like they still are blaming the church.
Yeah.
They've turned away. Now what?
Yeah, so I follow both of these girls on Instagram, and every now and then when I get sent, every day when I'm being sent crazy stuff, I click on it and I always see they had liked it. They've been there before, like. So, I love them and I care about them, and I'll maintain a relationship with them as much as they want to maintain a relationship with. One of them cut me off for a while because I confronted her about some stuff, and then I just sort of, anyways. But we're back being friends. But I don't know. I think there's this balance. I'm trying to find the threshold. The question that you answered, I'm wrestling with. Like, Lord, show me the difference between the lost sheep and the rich young ruler. Because Jesus didn't chase the rich young ruler, but he goes after the lost sheep. And so I'm trying to figure that one out. I don't know what the answer is. I think that as leaders, we need to kind of discern which one is this person is just lost, and this person is a rich young ruler, and they've just walked away. Jesus didn't chase them. So there's that. But my long term, I'm playing a long term game. So I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna be their friend, and anytime that they have something that I can support, I'm gonna support, and I'm gonna stick to my guns on the things that I believe, so.
Well, you one more. Yeah, go ahead.
Just in regards to like addressing sin, and kind of carrying out grace, I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit about like what it would look like to approach that for like your youth. But I feel like they are kind of in this mindset of like, I don't want to listen to anybody because the internet's right, yada yada yada. But like, I don't know. I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about like what does it look like to speak truth to youth that may not want to listen to anything you want to say in regards to what the Bible talks about.
Yeah. There's this, so I speak at a bunch of youth conferences. I'm still the youth conference guy. And there's a message that I love to preach called Sin and Grace. It's exactly the name of it. And I teach for 50 minutes about 12 or 13 passages of scripture. And I talk about sin for about 9 of them. And it's really, it's super fun. Because sin is hilarious, and everybody can identify, and we talk about like how, and the theme in it is it gets worse, 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 and I keep on showing how like inside of you is rotten. So yeah, I think just showing them scripture, like. I want to be careful when I'm speaking to youth that I'm teaching them how to read scripture. I'm not just trying to persuade them. I'm teaching them how the scriptures are used. And I'm showing them in scripture that, like, I didn't just come to the conclusions that I have because I'm Nathan. I came to the conclusions that I had because this is what Jesus said. Oh, and here's what Jesus said. Here's another thing that Jesus said. And, Jesus isn't always holding a lamb. Sometimes he'll cut you. You know what I mean? Like, read the book of John. He'll cut you in the book of John, So I highly recommend showing them in scripture. Just keep going to scripture. And for me, the sin-grace balance is 8 parts sin, 2 parts grace, right? Just keep on making it worse. It's beautiful. In movies, the formula in movies is it begins with a problem, the problem gets worse, and then there's the solution and the resolution, right? So think of your sermons to youth, as like that. Just keep on creating the problem and make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point where they're laughing. It's like, oh wow, this is bad, And then you bring in the grace message.